So this is the drawing. So this, I believe, is the drawing that we've been looking at recently. So I'm sharing. Can everybody see this drawing?
Oh,
no.
No.
If
No.
you need to share it, let me know. I'm going to call it up right now. Hold on.
Comcast has cut cables.
Is it showing now?
Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have had one comment from David Cole that has a conflicting meeting tonight, and he said where the crosswalk is now, which I'm doing a little arrow around it, is not necessarily safe than where there might be a stop sign. And the stop sign may be right here, where I'm going right in the corner.
Good point.
He had a stop here, here, and here. Those are his stop signs, Rod. And then this is a raised crosswalk so that it would slow traffic here and here.
Lisa, we can't see what you're pointing at.
Oh, sorry.
You want to head? I'll stop sharing and you can share then.
All right,
How
hold
about
on. Let me call it up. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah, because your arrow doesn't work on my.
Yeah, it's, my bad. I'm in that mode.
Yeah, that's because you're getting drenched.
Oh God, it's like, stop writing, please.
Oh, heavens.
So Alicia's going to try and share.
I got it. I'm just waiting for it to open. Here, give me a sec. I'm gonna get these other things off of my screen. Share. Okay, can people see that?
Yes.
Okay, hold on a second. I need to change my view on here a little
We
bit.
can't.
Well, we can see we don't see a diagram.
You don't see it?
No,
Who can see it?
we
Anybody?
just say,
Yeah, I can
see it. Huh?
Yeah, I can
Lisa,
see.
I can see it.
We can't, oh, now we
There it
can.
is.
Maybe
Okay.
it just takes a while.
I can
Um,
see it, and it sure looks better. He put beauty on a pig, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, he did, Susan. So, Rod, I'll just point these out and then you can take over. The stop signs he had just kind of tentatively proposed were going to be one here, and one here. And then this pedestrian bike crosswalk on the trail is raised. So it would act to slow traffic coming around this curve. They would still stop at this three-way intersection as well. So it would be raised in both directions.
So it's like a dead policeman sort of thing there?
Say that again, please.
Like a dead policeman, like a 5-inch curve?
A bump.
Bump,
Yeah,
bump.
like how they do that kind of near schools sometimes and they raise
Yes.
it up. Yeah. That's what
Yeah.
he was proposing. So again, the feedback will be important for what the community wants and thinks is safe in the city. So
Yeah.
I mean,
then-
as a traffic engineer needs to look at this, and even Jonathan admits to that.
oh yeah, 100%.
I see the stop sign that's coming north on Dornan. That makes sense. I'm not sure the one coming in the other direction makes sense.
I think it probably depends, Jeff. What I will say is, and when we have Marcia go through her landscaping design here to kind of hide this ugly ferry point station, if these trees are real big or anything, because you can't really see around them, that's why that stop sign becomes kind of important. And this stop sign here, it just kind of depends on how tall that vegetation would be.
But I think Jeff's talking about the other one.
Yeah, no, that stop
This
sign.
one?
No, the one on Dornan Drive coming south, that one.
Right.
Oh, you don't think that one's necessary?
We don't know.
That
Yeah.
well, the suggestion is that the painting in the road and everything makes that the ordinary direction of the road. And, you know, obviously people could go straight. And maybe any stop signs on this road, you know, why not put them in front of the crosswalk on both sides?
Yeah, I mean, they can, yep.
And remove the one that's on just at the beginning of the curve in the northerly direction.
Yeah, hi, everybody.
Oh, hey,
Hey,
Jonathan.
hey,
Hi, Jonathan.
A little late.
Yes, right there.
So we
I
just
think-
started critiquing your design. So if you want to walk people through it and then hear comments, or how do you want John, Rod, it's your meeting. So-
It's pretty self-explanatory. The comment that Jeff just made, you know, all these things are, this road needs to get designed by a civil engineer anyway. So it's just a concept, and it's just a great discussion tool to get folks in the neighborhood kind of excited about a much better approach to the Cove. So, you know, I think all we can do is forward ideas like this to city, push hard, and try to get a civil engineer to engaged in this discussion. Because, you know, whether you put a stop sign there or not, or make it curve like Jeff was saying, it makes sense, but civil engineers got to figure that out.
right. Well, I, you know, for one, going on the north side of the pump station makes so much sense because the current turn is ridiculous. And that's one, you can't put lipstick on that pig. It's just not going to work. So I think the community, you know, I recommend the community get behind some version of this that obviously meets safety standards.
Yeah, and I really love it. I mean, I know going back and Jeff and Susan and Brian and anybody involved with B card during the whole 2015, 2016 discussion with Laconia when they first were coming out with Terminal 1, you know, the community really wanted this road to stay. The majority wanted this curved road to stay, even if they had a road in the front of the development, because people didn't want to drive her all the way around the development, and they liked this curved road. And I think that satisfies how the community felt about keeping that curve in the road. I love that Jonathan redesigned it because the community wanted a little corner store here. So when Jonathan redesigned it, he included that corner store and a way to kind of allow congregation with bikers and walkers using the Bay Trail there. And to me, I really love it. And I love that it's calming the traffic and slowing it down. One other comment that I made, Rod, to Jonathan in passing was there's an entrance over here to the Ferry Point parking lot. And
I think it's there below, right there, where it says Bay Trail. That's the entrance.
yeah, right here. One thing that I mentioned was, I don't know if they could create another entrance, but at one point it would be nice, even if you could do almost and if, you know, the parks would have to agree to this, if they did an ingress this way and an egress this way. Again, it's just kind of trying to make this a nice logical pattern that slows traffic, calms traffic, and makes for a safe intersection. So.
Right.
Lisa, I like it a lot too. Because that intersection with the 90-degree is really bad. And there's going to be problems there, especially when big trucks can't make the turn without backing up and going again. And the community did really want to maintain Brickyard Cove Road with the curve.
Yep.
And so, Jonathan, you did a great job.
Hey, thanks. One critique that I had of my own work is one of the first mistakes I made on the first drawing is I forgot to include parking for a gathering area there for maybe some future cafe. So I put it in there, but I used the Dornan Drive right of way to do it. It may be that it's better someplace else. I don't know, but without parking there and handicap parking, it's hard to activate that cafe. So
Actually, that was my question. I wanted to know, I love the idea and I really like your design, but having the space for the bikes is great, maybe outdoor tables, that kind of thing, but maybe they have to park in the Ferry Point parking lot.
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Maybe my stuff looks maybe it's sort of forced down there. I don't know.
And that
Well,
parking lot
sometimes
is
that
rarely
parking lot,
full. Go ahead, Rod.
yeah, sometimes that parking lot does fill up. And but if that store is under what, 5,000 square feet, it doesn't need parking anyhow, especially if there's parking nearby. But it would be nice to have a handicap in that general area. So
Yeah,
that,
was that handicap, Jonathan, that first stall?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the idea is when people come down Brickyard Cove and they want to go get something quick, there is nothing out here.
Yeah.
And there's supposed to be maybe a little cafe over here near to replace All's Fair, but that's gone away. So there's really nothing else out here. It'd be nice to have a place to park and get something in and go home.
Yeah.
okay. And Leisha mentioned a ingress versus egress of the Ferry Point Park. And there is a curb cut that's on the north side of the hurricane fence, which would be lined up where they could pave that. It's actually kind of a road now, and then come into the back side of the parking lot. And that would calm down and then get a lot of traffic off the road earlier. So
Yep.
it's about at the word where it says sidewalk, the K. It's about where the K is, where that line is. So that would be great. I think that's a good idea, and I'd like to recommend that.
But the one thing about that is we're gonna have to engage the regional parks then
Yes, we
too.
will.
And they're gonna wanna know who's gonna pay for it. And the other element of that egress, that little road that we've used, it crosses their walking paths in two places before they could actually access the parking lot, Rod. So that
Yeah.
might be a problem.
Well, you may incorporate the walking path in that ingress.
Well, yeah, but people used to walk in there. They don't wanna see cars there. Although the park rangers there use them, so I guess they could.
And the other
Yeah.
thing that I really love about this is that, the designs, the one approved vesting tentative map that the 2016 approved project had, right? The Bay Trail was supposed to move north of Brickyard Cove Road and keep it there instead of crossing over here in the middle and this whole disjointed trail. And I like that it stays north of Brickyard Cove Road. I think it's safer crossing here and then coming over here and activating right in front of a potential cafe. So I like that it also fits with the vesting tentative map that was approved for the 2016 project. So
Yeah, hey Bruce, you had some good comments. Do you have any more crits on this?
Sorry, Jonathan, were you asking me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, hi. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a nice scheme. It's a good guide, probably vision document for the future. I guess I'm, a major concern on the part of track would be what's the intermediate solution to the very unworkable situation we have today. I'm guessing this can't be actually implemented for quite a while because of the negotiation with East Bay Regional Park and so forth. I mean, I would hope it would go quickly, but who knows? So I think this is a great scheme. It would be great to get a sense of what could happen in the meantime, just as an interim solution to the untenable situation there is today.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I just said I agree with what you were saying because everything looks like it's going to be pretty far into the future, and it's just so. Don't the Viola people or anybody have anything to have to do to make that whole messy corner better? I mean, it's just, there's graffiti, it's just terrible. They don't even have the sign up that says detour anymore.
Yeah,
know,
yeah, and people
how-
bring their boats
Oh.
in. People can't even bring their boats in safely on trailers to the yacht club.
Okay,
Right?
so there's been two people have brought in comments in chats. Catherine asked if it could be one-way roads to settle that. And then Marcia has said she's got an interim solution coming up next. So hold on tight, guys. As far as having it one-way roads, I don't know we can do it because I think that nice slight curve that Jonathan laid out is better for trucks and trailers and everything else coming in. And if you made it one way, you'd be hard to get out of here. Unless you went up through the Seacliff Drive. So
Yeah, I
anyhow,
agree with you, Rod, on that. I think from an emergency ingress and egress, that you kind of want this design, but I'm not a civil engineer.
maybe that road gets a little wider. I don't know what the width is.
And
That's for
with
the-
one way, you still have that bad 90-degree turn where the trucks have to come in.
I know, and I can't see that.
I
Yeah,
can't either.
I have a question about there's a bike lane over there on the left-hand side of Dornan Drive that's very near the Ferry Point parking. And right now, I have sometimes seen the Ferry Point parking 100% full, and people park their cars there on the road all the time. So are we thinking that we would have a bike lane and a place for cars to park along the left side of Dornan Drive as we're looking at the diagram? I'm a little bit concerned because there really are a lot of cars parking down there. So how do we see that?
Good point.
So Jonathan, so Catherine, I think one of the things that we're pushing with Caesar is, I know there are some bike trail plans for this intersection, but it has never really gone through our adequate review with the LUDRC and the PRNC. And so what we're pushing with Caesar is that Public Works must present to neighborhood councils and get these projects really reviewed by the people who live over in the area and know and understand the issues. Because if they have the bike lane and sidewalk all on the west side of Dornan Drive, and are they going to allow parking? Where is that bike lane relative to the parking? How safe is it? Are they going to have parking on the east side? And those types of questions that many in the community have never even seen those bike lane designs that are part of the PRNC and LUDRC and the community that live over here. So we've been telling Caesar we must have those meetings with Public Works before anything starts. So
Just
was on board
thanks,
with
Lisa.
that.
The other one little bit of tidbit of information. Some of you know that Laconia's kind of hired me to help him work through some schematics on the Terminal 1 project here. But one thing they mentioned at last meeting was they'd be happy to pave the additional overflow parking, which you don't see on this map, but if you've ever walked out there, there's a big overflow parking area. And they're willing to pay to have that all, redone and as part of their contribution to the development out here.
I just want to point out that we have Councilmember Zepeda in the House, and he's been very instrumental in helping to support the community's interests. And I think at the end of the night, we want to have a take-home message to the Point Richmond Neighborhood Council and to the city, which is the community here in Brickyard Cove really supports a long-term solution that has a curved road to the north of the pump station. And it would be great to hear from Marcia some of the interim steps that she's thinking of doing until we get to that long-term solution. But is there any reservation about the long-term solution being a road to the north? And if there is, we should hear it now and discuss it. But if there isn't, I think the take-home message is that the community is behind relocating the road to the north. Is there any concern about the road to the north?
No reservation.
No, it's a huge improvement.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have a question. Not a reservation. It's just, will the hill have to be excavated and moved back and have retaining walls? In this scheme? I'm just curious. I don't know.
Yvonne, this will take probably a civil engineer to look at it, but I'm hoping that, as you drive by there today, that there is enough space for this to occur. But, the civil engineers, as Jonathan and others have pointed out, have to address the traffic flow, the stop signs, the slope stability. And so I think you're raising that as a good point, and we need to add that to Public Works, evaluation.
Yeah, when I drew it, I had a topo map, and the topo map could be off a little bit, but what would probably be a good idea would be some sort of slough wall at certain points, because as everybody's probably observed for the last 20 years, that hill keeps creeping down and covering up the curb on the east side, and so there's probably something we should do there. But I didn't draw it cutting into the hill.
I would just like to add one comment from a Bay Trail perspective, just to be flexible about that crossing of the street, because it's critical that there's enough sight distance and that the speed is coordinated with the sight distance so that it's a safe crossing. So, I mean, I love the idea of a raised, what's called a speed table to get across the road and therefore slow traffic down, but I'm just not sure it's in the right spot. And as Jonathan mentioned, a civil engineer should probably look at that and confirm.
It probably will.
Yeah, which means possibly the trees on the north side of the Brickyard Cove, there's like 5 trees showing up by the B and the R. They might be, we might say only very low shrubs there and no trees.
Yeah.
So you have a sight line.
And does anybody know, I mean, a civil engineer is probably, going to know this, but on those raised sidewalks, Jonathan, don't they usually have those? I'm sure it's probably more expensive and they wouldn't put those in, but they can put those at least reflective lights. So at nighttime, people would also
that's a great idea.
Reflective lights.
Yeah, well, Marcia works with one of the best around, so she probably knows more about that than anybody.
Okay. Okay, so I think pretty much we're all in agreement with this. Let's go to Marcia and our interim.
So Marcia, I'm going to stop sharing my screen if you want to share something.
Sounds good. Let's see, let me make sure I can. There we go. So the last meeting we had on January 29th, I'd like to just start by saying, yikes. You can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So we had a meeting at your last LUDRC on the 29th of January, and that's where I collected your comments. I've been hired by the city of Richmond, and I'd like to note that the city Public Works Department is all new, and they are very concerned and very supportive of outreach and public outreach. Every project that I've had since this new group, I'm just giving you my perspective. Since this new group has started, they are always, okay, have you talked to the neighborhood? Have you looked at this? Have you, and so they're a lot more participatory. And so I wanted to let you know that that's one of the main reasons I was hired, to try and look at interim solutions and really talk with you all about what's important to Brickyard and the neighbors out in this area. And so the thing that, sorry, let me see if this will work here. So we had that community meeting on the 29th, and I gathered a whole bunch of wonderful comments. The main topics, there were 3: management of the project and the fact that it didn't go well, and now we're at where we are. The design issues, we looked at safety, aesthetics, and functionality. Those are some of the main comments. And then the roadway and Bay Trail reconstruction. And so as far as the design issues, I wanted to take a minute just to go through and to mention the things that you talked about, because I thought they were really important, and they have been. And honestly, it was really cool because you all record these meetings, and so I was able to share the recording with the public works director, the city engineer, the engineer that's on the call right now. So everybody is seeing this and understands it. But from a safety perspective, we talked about needing the road and the turn widened so that there's turning radius for trucks and emergency vehicles. And so the civil engineers in my office, we talked a little bit about it. The inside turning radius is 25 feet, outside turning radius is 50. And so that's one of the things that's going to be factored into the interim solution. The roadway condition right now is awful. There's a lot of drainage issues. There's puddles, there's potholes. And unfortunately, that's because there's one reason there wasn't a lot done with the road to begin with, but then during the construction, it's had some degradation. The width seems pretty small right now. The interim solution is fairly small. Site distance currently with the construction happening is very poor. Parking and dumping occur in this zone at the end of the roadway, and also in that larger area that East Bay Regional Park owns. There's that dirt area at the toe of the slope. The path of travel is, their ADA path of travel is non-existent right now. And we want to make sure again that there's clear emergency vehicle access as well as turning radiuses, so trucks and fire trucks and everybody can get in and out of there easily. As far as the aesthetics go, I don't need to tell you right now, it's not looking very good. The current condition is unsightly, and there's a pump outside of the enclosure, etc. So there's some issues going on there. The other thing about this intersection is this is an entrance to all of the developments within this area. And one woman said it very well. It's kind of embarrassing having people come in that opening. So I wanted to make sure that you know that we heard that. The other thing is we have some issues with the wall being a little short and the units are above. For instance, the generator itself is at 11 feet 8 inches and the wall's at 8. So I've got an idea on that one. The gates on the ends are just chain link fence. They're vinyl coated chain link fence, but they're open. So that's one other idea I have about kind of helping with the screening that I'll show you in a second. Lighting. The lights are kind of up and in the enclosure, and they're kind of short, and they're I think I heard that because they're kind of low, they're in people's eyes and faces as they're going and driving at night. And then another aesthetic issue long-term is that graffiti might be an issue on the enclosure itself. So we could do something like vines that cling to the wall that help with graffiti. The other thing is functionality. For both the short and long-term, we mentioned, or you all mentioned, that you'd really like to see a traffic study and look at the short-term and long-term designs. Another question you had was about, do we really need 2 driveways on the end? And then whether we could do some fencing at the East Bay Regional Parks property. So the last issue is the Bay Trail reconstruction, and it was made clear that we want to make sure that the alignment is very safe, it's the proper width, and that there's a buffer of some kind, not necessarily a K-rail, but something in between the travel lanes and the trail. The current cross the current trail crosses to the east, and that was something that was mentioned for the long-term solution, getting that all on the same side so that there isn't a dangerous crossing. And the other is reinstall the signage, and the long-term, making sure that there's a buffer between the trail and the roadway now and in the future. So those were the things I heard. Was there anything I missed?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool.
Marcia, you
Yes.
mentioned that the current wall is 8 feet high.
Yes.
It's not.
Okay.
I measured it.
cannot
It's,
be
it's
completed.
like 6 feet, somewhere in there.
Okay. The details are for an 8-foot, and that may or may not be finished yet. So I'll look into that, and I'll bring that back to you at the next, because I'd like to come back in March with the final design. So this graphic shows you the design itself. This used to be that little pork chop island here. It's cut back slightly. This is the new pump station. It's not a great graphic to show you what's going on here, but there's a gate here and a drive here on both sides. And I did talk with the engineers about why there's 2 driveways. One of the issues they were trying to alleviate with having the 2 driveways is that the trucks can come in and drive in and then drive out with the flow of traffic. That was one reason they didn't want to, in the short-term solution, they didn't want to go against traffic or back into oncoming traffic to get in and out. The other reason that there's paving there is because there needs to be vacuum trucks and cranes and things that need to be able to get in there and access, and they want to have that area available. There may be some long-term solutions with, turf block or something like that to make it more green looking in the interim, but having it still be there and be stable for when you did have to drive in with these large vehicles. This is just a series of shots so that you can see. I put the design over the aerial photo, so you can see this is where that toe of the slope is for East Bay Regional Parks property, and here's that area where people park and dump and do things. This red block is where the new station is being constructed right next to the old one. This next shows where the Bay Trail alignment is and will be replaced. And so what the interim solution will do, and this has not had the final civil engineering done. I wanted to show you what they were thinking and then give those comments to that civil engineer that's working on the project, and make sure that everything is something that you'll be okay with in the short-term solution. So the Bay Trail width would be maintained as is and tied into down the road, and then it would widen to the full width, the full current recommended width here, and there would be a barrier. And we're looking at something very similar to what was there, which would be the same fence that we're recommending for the to screen off. Sorry, my husband's home and the dog's going to bark. Apologize. She loves him. Anyway, for this trail. And then the next slide shows you the roadway alignment. So I grayed out the Bay Trail as it is, and then the roadway comes in, and it's 12 feet lanes each direction, and it comes in at a 90-degree. This is a 25-foot inside radius turn, and then you may or may not be able to see the 50-foot outside turning radius that a truck needs, but it is there. The next slide starts to, sorry, I'm so sorry. The next slide shows some of the additional improvements that we're thinking about for this. I was hired to do a landscape solution, but I wanted to make sure that all of these general elements would be something that would be included in the long-term final. This red dash line would be some type of a fence or barrier that's similar to what is existing in the East Bay Regional Parks, so that it would close off. There may be a gate, but it would close off that area for parking so that people aren't in there and dumping and camping overnight, etc. These little red dots would be those flexible barriers that would keep people and have them understand that this is still the roadway. And then I have a little bit of I think I zoomed in on the next slide. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. You can see these small dashed lines here. This is the alignment of the driveway. One of the things I was thinking about proposing is that we possibly do some type of a turf block or something so that this edge doesn't feel so hard and paved right along the Brickyard Cove Road. But you'd have these flexible barriers that would be defining the edge of the roadway. And that would also happen on Dornan Drive here. The next slide is starting to talk a little bit about, okay, this is why I was hired right here, is landscaping. So one of the things we'd like to do is begin to try and create, in the short term, some type of a gateway look at this corner with some trees. And I was looking at the palettes that you have in the developments out in down the Brickyard Cove Road. And I was thinking about something like an arbutus marina with some beautiful grasses that would be low, that would keep that site triangle open, but you'd get a really nice landscape edge along that frontage. Now here, Jeff Vines, is our lipstick on the pig, as you said. So one of the things I was thinking, okay, we have an 8-foot block wall. One of the things I was thinking about doing is putting some type of a topper on the fence, an additional 4 feet. That way the 11-foot-8 generator would be behind that. It could be something like an Corten steel, which sort of looks like the bricks, or it could be, you know, sort of a really interesting pattern. Bach Modern is a company that creates these really beautiful 4-foot panels that have a range of different different patterns. You can do grasses or branches or, you know, dots or whatever. And then the gate itself, I would like to see, you can do an open gate so that there is still visibility there with the same pattern like this right here, or we can do a solid gate or a combo gate that's similar to this with a solid bottom, and the topper would continue across the top. So that's sort of where I landed with this. And we just put some trees in really quickly so you could see what large arbutus unita would potentially do in front of the solid wall that's on the corner. So those are some preliminary ideas, and I just wanted to get some feedback on the direction we're going and see if that's something that we can kind of look at and think about. So what say you?
You mentioned, Marcia, this is Brian Lewis. You mentioned vines to help mitigate graffiti, and I haven't seen anything depicting that.
So sorry about that. So one of the things I wanted to do is not vine it up completely yet, so you could kind of see how just in this very quick section, how the block and the metal panel would look. But what I would do is do something kind of like a ficus creeping fig, which is, you know, at Brickyard Brickyard Landing, you've got that the walls there have that creeping fig on them that just makes the wall green, and it's lovely. And it's very hardy, and it just looks fantastic. So I would like to plant something like that. If you wanted a native vine, we could do something like a beautiful Clematis armandi, which is evergreen, but it gets these gorgeous white flowers on it. It doesn't cling like the fig, and it wouldn't be quite as tidy looking. But so that's sort of where I'd be heading with the vine. These walls would also have a graffiti coating on them to help with being able to clean off any kind of graffiti. But the other thing that we typically like to try and do is the block is sort of this tan color, and having the Public Works Department have paint that matches that so that they don't just paint it over with gray or whatever. So that would be something that we would also recommend.
Bonnie, you had something to say?
Yeah, I was thinking that if you're gonna have these very attractive walls, they they won't be shown to much advantage if you have vines all over them. And I wonder of the cost of it, if it wouldn't be better just to stick to fence that would support greenery probably more successfully and certainly repel graffiti better.
You mean like a lattice in front, the block wall's there,
Yeah.
but have a fence in front of it that the plants grow up?
Well, I didn't know that the block wall was gonna be permanently there. Is that exactly what's gonna be? Is that wall part of the structure?
Yeah, that wall is part of the existing project. And so
Okay.
the other thing you can do, I know you do this in Brickyard and other locations do this as well, that fig can be trimmed and to stay below so you can still see the screen, or it can just be left to go ahead and grow up and over the screen. Instead of doing something, you know, with that kind of architectural look, we could maybe just do something that would be a green screen type of topper on the wall. Now, the wall itself is designed such that the footing is designed such that we could go up to 10 feet, but you still have 1 foot 8 inches of equipment over the top. So it doesn't, you know, if you want to do a, you know, a 10-foot wall, CMU block, just blank and then make it all green, we could do that. Or we could go ahead and do this combination. One of the reasons I proposed this is because some of the earlier sketches had kind of public art and maybe this nice, these Corten looking, I think Jonathan did that scheme, some type of signage. And so I thought, well, let's, you know, maybe do something that's a little bit more artistic. So
I'm a little,
Hey, Marcia. Would it be possible to, what I find with this design is it's getting kind of busy and fussy.
you mean the pattern itself?
Well, the metal on top, and then it's going to get tagged. There's just no way you can stop that. It's going to get tagged. So if we were to bolt on, let's say, 4x6s on the side of that, and we create a, you know, similar to what Brickyard Landing has for their gardens there, but a little taller, obviously. And we were to put a wire, you know, mesh on like they have on their garden wall, and then we were to grow your clematis on that, then it would be really hard to tag that thing, and it would kind of give a little more of a softer look than this metal you've got. I just think this thing's going to get tagged and it's going to look not going to look great over time. And anything we can do to soften it, I think, turn it back into to greenery would be a good call.
Okay, so you're, instead of advocating something like an architectural topper, you're advocating to just put some kind of almost like just a wire lattice that a vine could grow on.
Yeah, like if you put 4x6s at let's say 4 feet or so, you bolt them to that CMU wall and they go up to 10 feet. You have an couple intermediate girts, and then you put your wire on that.
You're not talking wood, are you?
Yes.
It is. Redwood?
You mean wood and wire?
And you know, when you look at the Brickyard Landing, their enclosure there, you know, it just sort of is, it's just that it's got landscape on it. It just kind of disappears and it's nothing fussy. This is looking fussy to me.
Yeah, it is. I was trying to make it some type of a statement that could hold up architecturally to the development that's coming and the development down. If we put this, you know, you put a CMU block, you put this redwood, and then you put this, you know, welded wire mesh up there, I think that would look kind of tacky. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think it'll look not so great. And over time, it may not hold up very well. So maybe what we could do is kind of a compromise in that maybe we could do bolt-on metal posts and make it more of a metal that would hold up, that could be powder coated instead of redwood. And I know it's, and then we could go ahead and do the vines, but that would achieve the same thing, but maybe more durable materials that would last 30, 40 years. What do you think of that? You want redwood, okay.
No, it's just metal. It's just
Feels
harsh.
like design
What we have there now is we have this ugly CMU wall.
Yeah.
And it's just horrible. And it's gonna get tagged, and then someone's gonna paint it, and it's gonna look even worse. So
I
this metal's gonna get tagged.
Yeah, and I do understand that. I do understand that over 8 feet, something might get tagged. So I understand your point. I'm going to be looking at.
Wait, Marcia, hold on. Let me go back. If you were to go to Sea Ranch and you were to look at that architecture and what they did, what Charles Moore did up there and others, they just put boards up on the side of the building and just let it just disappear. And there's nothing fussy about Sea Ranch. It's just simple, clean. Yeah, it weathers, but there's an elegance and a simplicity to it that I hope we can achieve here, because this is getting kind of out too much. It seems like it's calling too much attention to itself.
Okay.
We want to de-emphasize this thing.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll come back with an alternative. I'll try and figure out how to detail it. And so it would just be sort of a weathered wood topper on a CMU wall with welded wire mesh that kind of looks like a residential fence, a little bit more residential on a CMU wall.
Could I say something, Jonathan?
If
Hold on a
there's
second.
if there's some way, Marcia, that you could really push against the Department of Public Works and try to close off the north entry and let your landscape talents be applied there. Right now, what I saw in your plan was the only landscaping we're going to have is just a little teeny bit in front of this thing, and the entire north side is going to be this tumbleweed, old asphalt paving where Brickyard Cove used to be, and a couple of these things up in the air that are that keep people from driving there. It's just a horrible way to kind of enter Brickyard Cove Road. So I would really push the Department of Public Works for one entry and then try to let you landscape that.
Yeah, I am working on that. However, I am not being very successful with getting the driveways closed.
Well, let's push them. That's
well,
what
you
we're here
can-
for.
Yeah, okay. So what the recommendation I would have for that is to go ahead and do some kind of a grasscrete along the bottom that we could put like no mow fescue or something, so it would look like grassy, so that they could continue to access that. They could drive over that. They could continue to access that. The lift trucks and the vacuum trucks and the cranes and things like that can still access in and out. So let me research that a little bit and see if I can push that a little bit.
Great, we haven't seen, when they were working there before, Marcia, I mean, the vacuum trucks and stuff, they wouldn't come like daily or weekly or even monthly. So it's only when they have like a little problem, they got to bring these in there. And if it means they hold up a couple of cars on Brickyard Cove Road for 5 minutes, as opposed to spending years looking at this asphalt there just to accommodate a suction truck, I don't think that's worth it.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'll go ahead and see what we could do about that.
Thank you.
Could I
Bruce?
make a comment?
Question?
Sorry.
Let's get Bruce Brubaker and then we'll go to Pat.
Yeah, just to kind of fill in the discussion about the screen wall. I thought I heard Jonathan saying that those verticals would be bolted to, they would go down to the ground and they would be bolted to the wall, and it would create a screen in front of the concrete block.
Oh,
But-
so you're talking about putting this, basically a green screen in front of the CM.
Exactly.
Correct.
And it could be
Oh,
somewhat.
see, I thought you
transparent.
were talking about doing this weird looking tacky topper on it. And I was thinking, oh my God.
Clearly that was in your
Okay.
head. I'm not sure that this is what was in Jonathan's head, but it's something that I think would look nice. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that out. Okay, Pat?
I'm just confused. I don't know where we are. We started the meeting with Jonathan's diagram where he changed the orientation of the road, and then we go to Marcia's
This is
diagram.
an interim work.
But you mean Marcia's is the interim?
Mhm.
But if we start with the interim, is that realistic to think that will ever change? I mean, it seems like a lot of work for the interim, and then you would have to completely redo it. Is that realistic to think that way?
So the way I would answer that is we need to fix this roadway so it's drivable, so that the Bay Trail can continue to go through, so it's safe, and so that we have access to your sewage plant, your sewage pump plant, so that they can be maintained and can move the sewage through. So that's one major thing. We have to come up with an interim solution. I'm trying to make sure that we do something that will look good now on the structure itself, but also something that won't cost a lot of money. The long-term solution is probably about a $3 or $4 million expenditure for that type of a roadway project. Just in that's just a ballpark. And so it's going to take a little time and a little bit of effort to come up with some funding and working through it with Public Works. I mean, I love the idea. I think it's a fantastic way to create the gateway into the community, and it's safe, and the Bay Trail goes through there. So I think, I mean, from my personal opinion, I think it's a really nice solution. But I want to make sure that we do something in the interim that makes it such that it can function, and that it'll look fine for the next 3 to 4 years, because that's how long I think it might take to get through the process and get it installed. Does that sound realistic to those of you that are technical?
Yes.
Also, what I wanted to say is, if Jonathan is back on Terminal 1, I have no idea what the design they're thinking about there is, but if you're thinking about a long-term solution 3 or 4 years down the road, I mean, maybe it's something that should be more closely integrated with what Laconia is going to be doing on Terminal 1 too. I mean,
Right.
I
I think that whatever is going to be done won't impact that at all. It'll be something that'll it's not necessarily a sacrificial landscape and sacrificial improvements, but it kind of is. You know, we want to make sure that we create something that is safe and clear right now, so that in the future we can work towards something that's a little different when and if Terminal 1 happens and Laconia continues. You know, there's all sorts of stuff around that I have no say in, but I want to make sure that right now we do something that will look good and will be safe.
Yeah, the Terminal 1 folks are in full support of the previous drawing, or the one that we first saw. Yeah, they're on board with that. They want to do whatever they can to help fund it, or do whatever they can to make that work, because they agree it's a much better solution for the
great.
Cove.
Okay.
This Jeff Vines, I just want to point out, I think Pat's raised a really good point. This is a lot of work. I don't know what the cost is, but it's going to take some effort and money. And I'm just curious or concerned that the inertia of having a road that basically meets all the safety criteria in place, the chances of convincing the city and the Public Works, et cetera, to start down the road of the Curves road, I think is limited. But I agree something has to be done in the interim, because there's some transfer of ownership of land that would have to take place. And so that always takes a long time.
So one thing I want to let you know is I have a $50,000 budget to do any type of improvements. That's the budget that I have. So I'm not going to be wasting multi-million dollars. You know, that's all I've got. So I'm trying to stretch it as far as I can and do as much as I can.
Okay, Brian Lewis.
Yeah, right. This is Jeff Schukas. I'm here with Brian Lewis. Marcia, a question for you about the wall specifically. I'm inclined to agree that the proper solution eventually is a wall covered with greenery. Looks pretty, graffiti proof, etc. My question is, how many years would it take for the vine to grow up? Because I think that informs what we should do with the topper.
The creeping fig, depending on the soil, And I'm hoping to create some really nice soil there. Probably it would take about 4 or 5 years to cover the wall about 3/4 to maybe all the way. I don't know. It's a very, very vigorous vine.
Got it. Okay. So we are, whatever we do for the wall, we're staring at it for years, not months.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm actually inclined to agree with you that a little bit of attention to the top, maybe something more than wood, more durable, more pretty, is worth it then. Thank you.
So
Okay.
I have a concern about the water. Who is going to be watering? Do we have a maintenance solution for
It'll be
even the
fully,
interim period of who's in charge of making sure the plants are okay and watered, fertilized, etc.?
so there will be, there is a water meter there, and it'll have a fully automated irrigation system, and the plant material will be fairly low maintenance. I'm going to push to put larger trees in, and I'm going to push to make sure that it has a really robust system. So, and that's how we'll design it. When we go out to bid, one of the things that are tools we've used in the past is on the bid, on the maintenance period, instead of it being 120 days, we may even have it be for a year. The maintenance period could extend so that there's someone that comes out there bi-weekly and makes sure everything is okay, or weekly, or, you know, whatever. So we could do something like that to ensure that continues to be safe and thrive.
So
Okay, Cesar, your hand's raised. Let Cesar get in there and
Thank you. I just want to confirm, Marcia, you mentioned 50,000 and that is only for the interim, right?
Yes.
And then the other, we're hoping that Terminal 1 development would be able to fund it if and when there's ever a development there.
Correct.
All right, so I just want to make sure that that's out there, that people kind of know a time frame, that it may happen in a year, it may happen in 5 years, it may happen in 20 years. So that way, because there's not, otherwise we have to appropriate money from somewhere else. So thank you. And the other question, Marcia, I believe you were working, I think I might have seen your name somewhere, with the Brickyard individuals about the bricks, the historic bricks. I'm wondering if we can use some of those bricks as part of the second phase here. Because I think I saw something, it might have been from you, and I might be mistaken who, but that said that those bricks, if we're not going to do the historic building again, that we can use those bricks somewhere else. And I'm wondering if we can incorporate them here, especially if I saw correctly, there was a little monument as the road turned, and maybe the coffee shop can have some of the old historic bricks, and we can put a placard there that says, this is the old Brickyard Cove Road, and these are the bricks. Something there to keep the history and be able to use some of those bricks, and we might be able to feed 2 birds with 1 seed.
Thanks.
So just a
Okay.
thought there.
Thanks. I'll put that in our notes.
And I just have a quick question. It's a follow-on on Charmaine's. Who is actually going to be responsible for maintaining the vegetation in that area? Is it the city? And the reason why I ask that is because if you do have a vine that over time goes over and into the pump station behind the wall, who's going to maintain that or clean that up if it's not the city? Because the agreement we have with Brickyard Cove is we maintain, the HOAs maintain only the vegetation on Brickyard Cove Road where it currently exists. We're not responsible for this corner. And I just want to make sure that that's actually captured in the LUDRC minutes for this.
Yeah, I do. I'll go ahead and look at who is maintaining the site. I don't want to answer incorrectly, but I would think it would be the responsibility of Veolia, but I'm not sure. I'll double check with Public Works on that and get back to you.
Thank you.
Okay,
And
Cesar,
Marcia,
you have your hand up again?
Oh, put your hand up.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I do.
Hey, Marcia, got a question. Lisa did a public records request, and we found in the reviewing of the contract with the city that there was roughly about $157,000 in highlighted as site improvements and road improvements. I think I mentioned that a few weeks ago. Did you happen to ask about those funds that were actually in the contract with the contractor? That was a line item that we found. Instead of your 50,000, they may have more. Did you ask about that?
I did ask about that, and they're doing an accounting of all the change orders and other things like that. So I don't have that information yet, but I'm hopeful that I'll have that by our March meeting.
Great, thanks.
And Caesar, can you help get that? I don't know if he's still on. Is Caesar still on?
You know,
Another
I've
important
got
part.
it captured. I've got it captured.
Yeah, he dropped off. So
Yeah.
Okay,
Could I ask, sorry, should I raise my hand? I have a question.
go ahead, Bruce.
Okay, so just regarding the Bay Trail, do you have a sense of what the separation structure will be between the road and the trail?
I don't at this point. I was thinking it would probably be similar to the fencing, the split rail fencing that is part of the East Bay Regional Parks vocabulary. I was gonna look a little closer at that. Would that be something that would be acceptable? I think Andrew in the last meeting mentioned that split rail fence as acceptable.
It's a good visual barrier. It's not so good an actual barrier against a truck turning the corner and going into the trail, but it's something. I think the track committee would probably have a discussion about that, but at least on the table, it seems okay. And then we haven't really seen any scale drawings, and we're very concerned about the width of the trail and how much room there is for that separation. There was a wayfinding sign there that got knocked over. And so there's a bunch of stuff that we'd be interested in seeing when you get to that point.
Okay. Yeah. One of the things that I started out with that was mentioned in the original minutes from the 29th was that we needed to reinstall that signage and need a sufficient buffer between the trail and the roadway now and in the future. And so the K-rail was mentioned as a no-go. So that would, I'd sure love to hear if you think the split rail would be okay, and maybe we do something in with those posts, maybe they're spaced a little closer and maybe they're a little bit more robust.
Maybe that's a good compromise. Okay.
Cool, thanks.
We'll get back to you, Marcia.
Okay. Okay, and there's one more thing we might want to know is Veolia had a 25-year contract. They might be getting close to the end of their contract, so we can assume that they're going to continue, but I'm not so sure.
I'll put that in the minutes and see if I can get an answer on that.
their contract is through 2027. And but based on the last city council meeting in January, staff was instructed to start looking for a new partner to manage the facility.
Hey, Marcia, is your budget include the Bay Trail fixing that's shown on your drawing here?
No, it doesn't. I believe that is that there is a civil engineer that is going to be working on this roadway and that Bay Trail. And so I'm going to interface with them and the Public Works staff director and city engineer on all these comments.
And is that curve you've got on there, the inside radius where you've got green, that's all gonna have to get ripped up and re-poured as a curb and gutter there.
Yeah. Yeah. That
when that happens, there's a depression there right now. So are they gonna come back in and tear out the pavement and Dornan Drive so that they fix that depression? when they pour the concrete?
My understanding is that they have to restore the road and there needs to be an overlay. And so I'm expecting that would be repaired. So as soon as I have the civil drawings, I'll be able to look at that and put that back in the minutes. So it's looking at so the road depression. Can you say that again? That way I can note it.
Yeah, there's a low point right where the corner is now.
Okay.
That everybody sloshes through, and if you pour that curb and gutter that's shown on this drawing with the bigger turning radius, then that theoretically that curb should be poured at the right level, not depressed. And if that means we have to do some overlay in there to fill in that depression.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting from the civil set. So,
okay.
I hope to be able to present that to you in March.
Marcia, is there, it feels like this meeting is about to wrap up and it's been very helpful, and hopefully you've gotten the message and the city's gotten the message that we want to see a long-term solution. We appreciate you're trying to fix what's there till we get to that long-term solution. Point Richmond Neighborhood Council has a 7:30 call. Is there anything that will you be on that call at 7:30? Is there anything that you will be saying at 7:30 that you haven't said already here?
No, I would be saying basically the same thing, except what I would probably do is skip the previous comments and talk about the current comments. I thought I'd try and type it up real fast.
Okay, because some of us have to leave shortly, and we just want to go on the record that, if there's a major change, that we would want to hear about it as soon as possible, compared to what, if you get feedback. And we look forward to your March meeting, and I really appreciate I've reached out to you a couple times. You've always been responsive and helpful, and appreciate the city having you on board.
And yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate that. It looks like Yvonne.
Yes, I just had two very simple questions. One was, so any trees you plant won't have root systems that imperil the actual facility itself. I assuming that. And then the second thing is just a really simple request to know on this graphic, where does East Bay Regional Park property start? That's my last question.
Okay, let me see if I can just do this really quickly. So East Bay Regional Parks, this is the property line. It's just right here. This dashed line is the property line for East Bay Regional Parks. So everything this way, I'm drawing an arrow. This is all East Bay Regional Parks up, and then over. I'm not quite sure. Honestly, I think this might be a separate parcel. I think it actually goes to here and then back over. So
thank you so much.
Okay. Susan?
Yes, thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Jonathan. I would think, Marcia, that we have a pretty good reason to complain to Department of Public Works. You can see everything that you and Jonathan have done, and the city's supporting that and everything. But has anybody asked them why in the heck it looks like the square footage is not too much different from what was original, and why did they move it closer to the hill? Has anybody asked them that? And if not, we should ask them, and we should hold them. We should say, wait a minute, you didn't talk to anybody. And we understand that Department of Public Works does not have to go through the usual processes. But that might be a really good talking point. Why did they? Do we know why would they moved it there?
So one of the reasons I think that happened was there was the station right here.
Right.
And to be able to build a new one, you had to keep this one operational. So they wanted to put it as close as possible to
I got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and
that makes sense, but they certainly didn't ask for any public input.
Yes,
input.
and they do understand that. And I was told in no uncertain terms that every single person that was part of Public Works at the time of this project is now either gone or fired.
That's
Yeah.
correct. That's
Just wanted
correct.
to let you know.
That's correct, Marcia.
Anyway, but the important thing is also, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Marcia. Marcia, I like what you've done, and thank you very much.
There
Thanks.
were
Okay, I
two
think-
questions. There were two questions, Marcia, for you that I'm not sure if Rod saw them in the chat. One was, is there any lighting in these plans? That was from Mary Land. And then there's a second question from Rita, which is, will there be any road repairs on Dornan Drive?
I'm sorry, what was the second question?
Will there be any road repairs on Dornan Drive? And that actually, I can help answer that question because Jonathan and I did that Public Record Act request. And Veolia is supposed to be responsible for fixing anything they did on Dornan Drive. They're supposed to contractually be responsible. So if it doesn't happen, then we need to ask Public Works to make sure they're held accountable.
I think that's B-Card's understanding too.
And then as far as the lighting, the only lighting that is on the project right now is inside the enclosure. And it's a little shorter. And that's all I know about, but I'll double check on that for you.
Yeah, hey, Marshall, a long time ago, if everybody knows this, I met with Public Works and a bunch of other, Steve Chamberlain was there.
I was there.
And okay, yeah, and when this thing first came up, we had a lot of serious concerns with this. And one of the same things that the Department of Public Works guy said at the time was, don't worry, we'll keep the lights down below the wall. So, and of course they build it and they're above the wall. And the big concern is when you drive up to the intersection, those lights, it just takes one mistake from that guy changing it, putting in those super high, bright white things, and we're all blinded. So they agreed early on to put them below the wall and down.
Okay, you're right. I did note that in the notes. I said that, let's see, poor lighting at the intersection, and it goes in people's eyes, etc. And so I'll, if we put a little topper on, if you let me put a topper on, Jonathan, we could screen that. But just saying.
Okay, listen, we got to close
Thanks,
this.
everybody.
So Charmaine can get ready for the general membership meeting, and that's another Zoom meeting. So thank you, everybody, for attending, and thank you, Marcia and Jonathan. I hope everybody's feeling good. And
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
And
Yeah.
thank you, Richmond Council for
Thank you.
hosting.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.